Welcome back to the Oklahoma Speed and Custom YouTube channel. Today we're gonna do this door top here. It's kind of a mess, but we're gonna get it worked out. I've already done one, so I can go over here and kind of show you how I did it. Pretty much just rebuilt this whole section using the Pullmax. I just made some dies, which I'll show you in a minute, and we just beaded this to where they corrected a lot of the issues with the door top being cut. When you chop a car, you got to cut it here, but when you take a section out, it's at an angle, so it doesn't exactly line up, so you wind up having to cut some out of here and sliding it back just to get this area right here to all line up, which I'll show you some before pictures of this door and after right here of kind of what we're doing and why I'm cutting on this other door. So on this door, I've got the rear section pretty much tacked in, which I got a hammer and dolly a lot of that. It actually wasn't as bad as that door, lined up wise, but the welds were just as bad. Like, it was lined up better than that door, but the welds where they ground it was so thin I couldn't even work it, so I just had to replace it. Here's the front section. You can see it's kind of crappy welded there, and this didn't line up at all. Like I was saying, they didn't cut it up here. They just moved this around till it lined back up, but when you get back at it, it had a jog in it, so just like the other door. So now I've got it pretty much made, well, not made, but I got the arc going to where we're going to go put this in the Pullmax and get this whole section made right here. And I've also started on this, which this will be a whole new piece just to get rid of that ugly weld. So let's go get this thing fired up in the Pullmax and we'll get it made for this section, and then we're gonna have to make this lower section directly. I have to make this upper piece in two sections just because it's easier for me. I can't figure out how to make it in the Pullmax to where it does it all in one and it curves. Once you start curving in a Pullmax, stuff gets kind of messed up, so that's why we're making it in two sections. So let's go over to the Pullmax and we'll get this thing hammered out. So I got the dies basically set up, so we're just gonna run that through, and that's gonna put this corner right here is gonna put that bead in there. Let me show you. It's gonna put this in here. So we're just gonna run this through a few times and tighten it up. Keep tightening up the tolerance until it gets the bead perfectly in there and straight. You can see we're slowly starting to get there. Just keep running it through till the dies are closed enough to where 18 gauge will just barely fit, and then we should be good to go. Perfect. Now we got it all cut off, we're gonna get it trimmed and we'll start to shape it, or actually shape it the other way by stretching here, so it'll fit that curve of that door. So let me go stretch it and I'll kind of show you. We'll have to go back and forth between the door and the stretcher and just kind of get it to where I'm happy with the shape. So actually, here it is right here. I can just bring this piece over there. So we'll just bring this over there. We're gonna make this curve fit in here with the stretcher. looking pretty good right there. So let's go get everything cleaned up and we'll get it tacked. Gonna go from there. Get it where I'm happy with it, which looks like it's gonna need more shape on this, so I might run this back through the machine until I'm happy with it. So you can see it'd be kind of something like that. We'll weld down that seam once I get it all cleaned up. This is also a little brought up, so I need to run this back through the machine as well and get this edge brought down. So let's go run that through real quick. We'll get it all cleaned up and we'll start welding. Well, we were riding the struggle bus. This one didn't work. Wasn't happy with it. I got it in place yesterday and was not right. So we started again. I've made it again. It's a lot better this time. It actually lines up. The last, probably 1/4 inch of this thing kicks this way and it shouldn't. So I'm trying to devise a plan now to make it line up just that much better. See, look, it kind of has a jog. It's hard, might be hard to tell on the camera, but it's just ever so slightly a jog at the end. So I can either make a longer one of these, which is probably the correct answer, and then just cut this off and get that fitting like that. That's probably actually the way what I should do, is do that, because it would be a lot easier. So I'm gonna go make another one of these real quick, a little bit longer, and hopefully fix that. After that though, my biggest issue with this is this curve is wrong. It's shallow, it's not deep enough in there, the bead. Let me go to this door and I'll show you what I mean. This one's way more pronounced, so I'm gonna have to fix that as well. Look at this one, it's hardly, it's so faint you can barely even see it. So it's, yeah, it's not even anything. Like, it's, I don't know what the crap's going on with that, but that's something else we gotta fix. So before I weld the door skin on, I will be fixing that. Back here it gets better. It's just right here, this whole like 2 foot is just wrong. I don't know why, it just is. So we'll go make another one of these real quick, and I'll get back with you guys and I'll show you how I'm gonna fit all this up and the mess I'm in. So the beads are looking really good, everything's lined up now. I need to do some hammer and dolly work just to get everything squared up, because the curves are just a hair different, but they're really close. And we need to tackle this. So now I decide if I want to cut this side loose and just take the whole top skin off, and either could probably put it in the regular bead roller and maybe get it. I don't know. I'm gonna try a few things the rest of the day and try to figure out how I can do that, because that is gonna be kind of a mess, because it's got an edge here it's hard to get to. There's a, I can't get the Pullmax dies in there like I did this, because it's got a whole thing in there. Well, I could cut that off, but it just would take a lot longer. So I'm hoping I can do it with a bead roller. Let's see if I can keep her straight the whole way, hopefully. It's working! Getting harder though, because it's, that's actually good. Let's go back the other way. Slow and steady wins the race. So on the dies I just used a soft rubber die for the bottom. I didn't want to crease that other panel, so this would give it to where it would bend and kind of break away without creasing it too bad on the top. Because usually if you're on a steel die, like I have a rounder die where I could have ran around like a super round die on this side and then this one, and it might have helped, but I was just worried it would get it out of shape real bad. So that's the die setup we used to fix that. And now if you look at this one, it's got a nice crisp line there. You go over here, now we got a nice crisp line there. So I just need to come back, I'll strip all this today, get it all cleaned up, and get it ready to go. So tomorrow we get here, we can put this in the planching hammer and get this all looking good and bare metal before we weld it on. It'll be easier to handle now that it's off. So, and then all we gotta do is just seam it back up and then take the skin off one more time and make sure everything's good to go before we weld the skin on. So I'm freaking excited. Get this thing hammered out. One of the roughest parts of the door was that area, so we're getting there. Well, it's a new day. I've got this mostly done this morning. Got it all pretty much looking good right here. Got this all hammered out. I've also got the front fitting again and got it all checked with my template. Made sure door to door it's pretty even. So before I'll go ahead and weld this all the way out, and then we'll check it one more time. and then I can start hammering and dollying this. And then I need to clean this edge up. You see it's got a little few highs and lows where I sanded it, so we need to get all that cleaned up and ready to go back on the inner structure. Once we get on the inner structure, then we'll have to make the back seam piece to where it'll all connect again. So let's get going on this, weld this out, and then we'll go to that. Well, we got her all smoothed out and metal finished. I still need to go over this once I get it laid back on here. It's kind of, I don't know, I'm just not real happy with it yet. I need to make sure it fits on the door or the inner structure before we get too carried away with shrinking it, which I think it needs a little bit of shrink just to bring it back into shape, but we'll see. But I had to end it off here. I'm out of time, so I'm just gonna call it on that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, it came out pretty nice, I think. I mean, pretty straight. Way better than it was, I'll tell you that, because it was pretty rough. But thank you guys for watching. I want to thank our subscribers. We still getting some more every video. I seem to trickle a few in, so that's awesome. Thank you guys for watching. Also, thanks to our members. You guys are sticking around. Sorry we didn't get the videos out for a few months there, but it's just one of those things. We had a lot of stuff going on. We're back at it though. So until next time, see you guys later.